Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. My hockey team's going to play soon. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. I need to get Walton on. I mean to tell you this off the air. I'd like to talk to Walton at some point this week, please. I'd like to get set for Caps and their season starting this weekend. So can we hook that up maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I know a guy. Yeah, I think
You
I
know
can
a
make that
guy?
happen. Yeah, I think I can make
You
that
make that
happen.
happen?
Yeah. Did you know, by the way? So the season starts. Well, the season started last week. There were games overseas, and I think it was Sweden. So
They're doing the NHL shocker is not doing a really good job promoting some of these types of things. Like they're playing real games overseas, and I don't know about it because my team's not in them.
So I think it's Buffalo and New Jersey played real games. Then there's today's like the rollout. So there's 9 hours of hockey. So it's like there's an afternoon game in Seattle to start things off today at 1:30, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool, I think. Or 4:30, sorry, 1:30 their time, which I think is a cool opening day thing. Your Washington Capitals, though, are the second to last team to get their season started on Saturday. It's them and the Ducks. And the only reason the Ducks are later is because they literally play on the West Coast. So the Caps waiting until basically the last second to get their season started.
I'm pumped to get it back. As you know, hockey is a pure joy love for me too. So I'm very psyched to get it back. And I'm very excited to see what this team looks like. They're very different this year. They made a lot of moves in the offseason. There's a lot of stalwarts like TJ Oshie. You're not going to be around anymore. So I want to see what this team looks like. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'll get into the Commanders in a second. Well, actually, I'll just do it now because I forgot what I was going to talk about. All right. All right. Guess what? First big game. I think we got the first big game this weekend of the DQ Jayden Peters era. I'm going to throw Jayden into that now because I think he's a big part of this. It used to be like, it's the first this of Dan Quinn and Adam Peters. It's the first that. No, it's the first this, and you got to put number 5 in the middle of it too, because all of the promotions are going to show pictures of him standing next to Lamar Jackson. We know that CBS blocked a flex attempt to get them into Sunday Night Football. You went through the schedule recently. I looked at some of the games coming up too, because I think if Washington continues to do this, they're going to be a candidate to get some night games, they'll get flexed into it. But the schedule actually has a few matchups. Like I think the Cowboys are playing the 49ers in a couple of weeks when Washington's playing the Bears. So I could see where they'd want Jayden and Caleb, but they're not going to move the Cowboys 49ers game. It was this weekend that it's Bengals Giants. So for sure they would have loved, I'm sure, to do it, but CBS apparently blocked it. So we get our first big game. You're going to start getting the comparisons. We're going to start finding out kind of what this is about. I think this is their second big game, except the first one, which was Monday night Cincinnati, I don't think we knew what we had yet. I don't think the country knew anything about the Commanders at all, other than that Jayden Daniels kid looked pretty good, in his first couple of games, but they're 1-1, and last week they didn't score a touchdown and all that stuff. And now this is how quickly things can change. Like, cat's out of the bag. He's really good. He's probably going to be the rookie of the year. The way they're going right now, you would have a conversation about MVP with him, which would be practically unprecedented. They're rewriting their own record books. And, the guy that he's playing against, he has openly said on draft night, I can't wait to play against him. I, admire him, as most of the young quarterbacks do. And, oh, by the way, they happen to be in the playoffs just about every single year. And they were in the AFC Championship game. And I believe right now, if I had to take a guess, it's them and the Chiefs is the best two teams in the AFC right now, even though they're only 3-2. So this is the first litmus test. And I got to tell you, it's the first time in a while that I have felt like we got a big game that has real meaning attached to it. Like we've had a couple in the past, like the Giants one that was flexed to Sunday Night Football a couple of years ago, where they had that dud, where they had gotten hot. They'd done this with Rivera. Start slow, get hot. But I don't think anybody was sitting there looking at that team. I think they were waiting for them to win. We thought they turned a corner, but I don't think anybody was fooling themselves into believing like that was a Super Bowl type of team or a championship aspiration type of team. And I don't want to go that far with this one, but I think we all know that the whole setup here is totally different. And this is going to be the first of what I hope is many showcase games for Washington. And I can't wait. It's Tuesday and I'm just jacked up because we haven't had one that's framed like this in a while, where we're actually good. We don't even know how good we are. We know this is the beginning of something, and we're going to go on the road against a team that we know is great. and we're going to find out where we stand with them in the middle of the season. It's awesome.
Yeah, and they happen to be 45 minutes away. It's not like it's not.
It's got to be the biggest game against them that we ever had against them, right? I mean, it's got to be the most meaningful Commanders-Ravens game because they only play them every 4 years, so it's got to be.
They did play each other in 2012. I think that was probably the last big one. That was remember RG3 got hit by Haloti Ngata. That was the first knee injury.
He got cut in half by he found out the hard way that Haloti Ngata is faster than he looks.
Correct. I was there and I heard that hit from the club level that day. But that was probably the last big one because of this reason. It was like we've got one of these guys. They're playing a home game against this team. Let's see how they stack up. But even then, I remind people they weren't like amazingly good like this that year. They had a losing record at some point. I want to say it was during that. They were something
stretch. Like 3-6. You know, like they had the great win on the opener against the Saints, and then they were like 3. Because I remember I was talking to Logan Paulson, who was on that team. You know, and he was like, because I asked him like, you know, you lived the hype of RG3, and he goes, well, you know, what people don't remember is actually we had a really bad record, you know, like 4 or 5 games in. So while everybody was very excited about Robert, we weren't winning like this.
Yeah.
Right?
And so just to add on to all of this, I was actually literally having this discussion with someone last night. And they're like, what do you call this? And, you know, you call it the big boy game. You call it the coming out party. And I said, you call it a legacy game. It's their first test of this era, mainly because you look at the last 5 weeks, you get to speed up the timeline. I normally would say, oh, let's just see what happens. But I think the way this offense and the way this team has just been going, they need a real test. And we know that this is going to be one. Let's see how they stack up. Like, I think this might be the most juiced up game since like that Cowboys playoff game, to be completely honest, in 2012, or not playoff game, but to get into the playoffs. Like, I'm just saying the Kirk teams never had that much juice. Like, even games that meant something, there was kind of a ceiling there. Like, I never really felt like they were this exciting.
What was the one where they beat the Packers on a night game and Snyder was dancing? That one was all juiced up.
That was a Sunday nighter or a Monday nighter, but there wasn't. But it wasn't going into it. Is what I'm getting at here.
Yes.
Like, it was a good win because you and I were following it, but in terms of just the casual, you know, fan knowing how big this matchup was, the fact that they were talking about Jayden Daniels on Monday Night Football last night and then talking about that matchup, like, they don't get that kind of hype ever. And then not only that, it's Romo and Nance. They put the number 1 team on there. I can't remember the last time they put a number 1 team on, you know, an AFC matchup.
No, I haven't either. And you know, it's funny because like you'd think this would have some kind of rivalry aspect to it. That's not what it is at all for me. Like, I don't feel that way at all about it. I just feel like I respect what they do up there. I've respected them, the way they've built their organization, the consistency that they have. That's really, really hard to maintain. And obviously I respect Lamar and his ability. And I think with the Cowboys should have got Derrick Henry. Like, the Ravens shouldn't have got Derrick Henry. The Cowboys should have got Derrick Henry. Now that they have him, it is beyond a ridiculous thing to try to stop. And I think we're going to find out a lot about our defense this week as they try to limit that run game, because it's been a problem. You know, I think it's been better the last couple of weeks, but like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, the Browns run game this year is not what the Ravens run game is. So we're going to find out, you know, I think a lot about our defense this week. And it's weird. Like, it's so interesting. Like, I just here in Washington, like, there are 2 things that have occurred here that are kind of like go against all common logic and history. Like, the Democratic Party removed the presidential candidate in the middle of a sitting president in the middle of an election. And everybody's fear was, you can't do that. If you do, no one's ever done that before. There's not enough time. And that feels like 8 years ago. Like, I think we're in like kind of a spin cycle that's so different now because of social media, because of connectivity, that you could be like, I was saying this at the time. I'm like, you could replace him, like, and put her in, because she'll be on TikTok tomorrow and 8 million people are going to see a million videos of her. And they're going to be like, oh, I know her. Like, it'll take a second. It's not like you have to do these original things. And what the Commanders are doing is literally unprecedented in flipping a team over in literally every single way and putting together a beyond competitive team, and arguably right now the best playing team in the NFL with the Chiefs and the Vikings. Who's been better than them over the last month? You know, will it last? I don't know. And I'm not trying to pretend that I think I know what's going to happen over the next like couple of months into, you know, the end of the season. But the reality is, they can go 500 from here and make the playoffs with 10 wins. They do a little bit better than that and go look at the schedule and tell me you don't think that they can. We're talking about a record they haven't had since the 1990s. And they did this, what feels like overnight. Like, that's weird, but I love it because we're here now. It's been a really long time. I know I'm like everybody. It's taken a little while to believe in it, like to not feel like, as what was the question yesterday, that the other shoe is going to drop.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of this kind of beaten down syndrome of, I don't want to get too excited, because when I get too excited, it's like you meet a girl in the bar and you really actually hit it off, and you just don't want to get too crazy about it because could this be real? She actually likes me. Like, that's what's kind of happening here. But I kind of landed on, after the Cleveland game, they didn't even play that well on offense, and they blew them out, and they're pulling their quarterback with 12 minutes to go. We're in a new normal right now. Like, this isn't, we need to get used to it. And I think, kind of to your point, like, you got to enjoy it, because, and I'm going to get to why in a second, because it isn't going to last in perpetuity. It's not. Like, everything turns back the other way. Everybody gets criticism. Josh Allen's getting it. Joe Burrow's on a team that's 1-4 right now. Like, Matthew Stafford's on a 1-4 team right now. The Niners are 2-3. They're all going to say that Purdy's no good anymore. Watch, like, you'll see, it goes up and down all the time. We do need to enjoy this because it's new, it's fresh. Everybody's getting clean, like fresh eyes on it. Everybody's paying attention to it. They're all saying all these great things. I love that Jayden is consistently saying, if I don't play well, I know what's going to happen. Like, he's not feeding into it. His ego doesn't seem to be like getting out of whack here. So we do need to try to enjoy this, even though I know on some level, none of us can really believe it because it's happened so fast and happened so kind of overnight right before our eyes. And I don't think any of us expected it to be this good. I'm optimistic. I would never have been this optimistic. If I told you 5 weeks ago, we're actually going to be one of the best teams in the NFL, you would have laughed at me, been like, you're a homer, go do skin tangibles, you're a dum-dum. You would have done the whole thing. And I wouldn't even have believed anything like that. I'm sitting there going, hey guys, I think if they got to 9-8, 10-7, that would be unbelievable if they made the playoffs. Now, I don't know. After what I've seen, I believe it. I don't think it's fake. I think it's real. I think the chemistry is real. I think the team that they put together is real. And I don't think that this is going anywhere. And I think that's why this weekend is so much fun, because it feels like a first really big game. Because if you haven't bought into what you've seen the last few weeks, you haven't watched this sport. And they're ready to take on somebody and find out where they are. And that's what they get this weekend.
No, I think I've used this line with you on one of our interviews before, where I've said it's actually really easy to figure out who hasn't watched the games, like who doesn't really know ball, because they use these tropes that they're trying to either compare it to RG3 or use excuses for Caleb Williams. And all I always point back to is, you're not watching the games if you don't see how well this team is playing right now, how well they've gelled, because you can tell that the chemistry is there on both offense and on defense, and that they're playing off each other in such a way. Like, yes, this is why you should enjoy it, because I'm not saying it's going to get like drastically worse, but they're on a run right now. And maybe someone figures out how to stop him. Maybe they don't. But at the end of the day, like, just enjoy it in the moment. Don't wait for the other shoe to drop. I thought that question was hilarious that they asked Dan Quinn yesterday to finish out his press conference, essentially. But
I thought it was a fair question, honestly, because like, I actually thought it was Liam from the Washington Times, and he is actually new on the beat.
Yep.
And I thought that was very tuned in to ask that question, because it's every conversation that I'm having with people is this real? I can't believe my eyes. Like, can you believe? Because I think everybody recognizes they're not just winning. They are legitimately good, and good in so many ways that it doesn't feel like it should have happened this fast. And it's just beyond expectation. And, like in a month from now, they're a Panthers loss away from everybody going, see, I told you, like, not to get too far ahead of it. But it does feel very real to me right now. And I think that's why this weekend is like so intense, because you're going to really, everybody now expects them to play at a different level, and they know what that other team is. And so I think, listen, it's just week 6, but it's the first time in a long time that I have felt like they're set up to play a game where we kind of find out where they are and on what level they are. And if they're kind of right there or somehow pull off a win here, you think people have gone bonkers to this point? You just wait and see what the power rankings are on Monday if they pull this one off.
Well, I think like one of the things that I had to like point out yesterday was you have David Aldridge writing a piece for The Athletic saying like it's okay to believe Washington fans. I had to tag John Walton. I'm like, it took 6 years, but now it's starting to apply to the football team where we have to tell everyone, hey, it's okay to like enjoy all of this right now.
It's because it's undeniable. Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm like, am I in a dream? And I think that's what's been the last couple of weeks. Like, is this real? Because it's been so good that it's hard to believe and it defies logic. And when we talk about, well, you have to build up to get to this point, and then you have to have these battle scars, and they seem to have like taken some kind of bizarre shortcut to all of it. And it really, like, I don't care how they got here. And like I said yesterday, like this ends up like they're playing like this in January, then they can beat anybody. And that they make movies out of things like this. Like, this story is ridiculous. And it's exciting to be part of it. And the other part of let's enjoy it now is because there are ups and downs. And listen, this isn't a hot take factory over here, but I do monitor First Take every once in a while. And every once in a while, they do one where I'm like, that is spot on and was deserved. So have you seen this clip of Shannon Sharpe going after Dan Orlovsky for not basically going after Aaron Rodgers for his play, which has been undeniable, like not unlike like, do you believe your eyes with the Commanders? If you don't think that Aaron Rodgers is playing poorly right now, then you aren't watching them play, because he was really bad in that London game. His completion percentage is in like the 50s. Like, he doesn't look good. And while I will agree, he's not their only problem, he's also not their solution. And if you're not like recognizing that or saying that, then you're defending him. So Club Shade went for Raj yesterday. And I'm telling you, this is worth it. I don't like, me, I don't love all the hot takey stuff all the time. It's not my style, but every once in a while, I think they hit the nail on the head on one of them. And apparently Dan Orlovsky was being a little, in their opinion, overprotective of Rodgers and not going at him. So, all right, take a listen to this. This is Shannon Sharpe going after Dan Orlovsky yesterday.
Now, I was told that they were bringing a guy in. The offense was inept when they had Zach Wilson. The offense was inept when they had Mike White. It was inept when they had Joe Flacco. It was inept when they had Sam Darnold. I was told by somebody that played the position up here that they're bringing a guy in. Now, they're losing. Why are they losing, D.O.? Because you keep saying the inept offense. Talk about the quarterback play. 3 interceptions again. 53% completion percentage last week, 57 this week. Nah, I'm not going to let you blame it on the offense, because you didn't blame the offense when they had those other quarterbacks. You blame the quarterback, but you want to stay in good graces and you won't call Aaron Rodgers out. He's playing awful. You know it. Everybody in New York knows it, and everybody around the NFL knows it. He's playing terrible. Call it like you see it.
Hold on. Shannon, one, he said it himself. I don't need to go on national television and tell people that Aaron Rodgers played poorly. No. There is a way that you have to play Minnesota. First of all, I never blamed the quarterbacks in New York. I always blamed the situation. I'm the guy who tries to put context on performances. I'm not telling anybody that Aaron has played well the past 2 weeks. By no means. He even said it himself, not up to his standard. But Shannon, you know this. There is a way that you have to play as an offense to help your guys play well against certain defenses.
Not turn the ball over.
No question. So the pick six, 100%. That is a predictable pick six. He ran the triple slants. Van Ginkel knew it. The second interception, he forces the ball down the field to Lazard. I'm not telling anybody Aaron's playing well, but it's also not my job to go on national television and talk about a Hall of Fame quarterback when I was a backup quarterback and say that he stinks.
Whoa,
yes, he's part of the situation. You're a Hall of Famer. You could do that. You're a Hall of Famer. You could do that. You could do that.
I need you to give D.O. Let him see his job description. That is his job, is to critique Hall of Fame, non-Hall of Famers. It does not matter.
But my job is to put context on why. My job is to put context.
Oh, tell me that wasn't perfect television, and now I know why they pay Shannon Sharpe what they pay him, because that ain't a hot take. That's beyond true. It is undeniable that Rodgers is playing really poorly. Apparently, Orlovsky is refusing to go at him. in turn, he seems to be, and this is where I think they're getting at, which I hope the conversation went to. Are they setting up to run the bus over Natty Hacks? Right? Because that's where Orlovsky's going. He's going, the offense needs to help the guy do the things he needs to do. Meantime, the throw was underthrown on one interception. The second one was terrible placement. And the third, he got read and got fooled by Van Ginkel and threw a pick six. That's not the offense. That's the quarterback play. And I love Shannon Sharpe going, we need to tell you what your job description is here, buddy.
Mm-hmm. There's like two parts to this. One, you know what this happens when somebody doesn't know what to say, so they start backtracking. Orlovsky's backtracking, all-time bad there, saying, I can't criticize a Hall of Fame quarterback. It was like, oh, I don't know about that one, dude. That's like, you stepped in it on that one. The second part of this is typical ESPN, though. Like, I went into this game going, the Vikings defense might be the best one in the NFL. Yeah. So, like, we knew it wasn't going to be this high-scoring game. Rodgers made mistakes against what is the best defense in the NFL right now. Maybe that should be the conversation, because I think you and I think the same thing about Rodgers. If they're still 500 by halfway through the season, they're probably still going to make the playoffs because they're just going to go on a run at some point. Like
100%. Yes.
Like he's going to have games like this, but I know Shannon brings up a good point. Like you have to criticize him when he's having these terrible games, even if it is against a good defense.
There is also there's an insinuation there also. There's an insinuation there that he's going to show up on McAfee. He gets a lot of attention. If you go at him, he'll go at you, and like he doesn't want anybody going at him. And if he gets McAfee to get mad at Dan, then Dan falls out of the good graces at ESPN. There's a little bit of that I think is kind of an underlying thing. And Shannon Sharpe saying it is going, I don't care if Aaron doesn't like me, which is very interesting. Like he can go, I know where I am. I'm on Team Stephen A. We're untouchable over here. Orlovsky's play in the middle where he goes on both of those shows. And he's like, if I'm the graces of Team McAfee and Team Rodgers, that might actually get me in trouble. That's what he's insinuating there too, is that you won't go after him because you're concerned that you'd get in trouble if you did it, which is not your job description. And anybody, and it doesn't take me to say it, but anybody who watched the Jets play knows he was a problem. And if you can't say that, then you're not doing your job.
Yep. Yeah,
it's true.
It's absolutely true. And Orlovsky now has to tread differently, is what I'd say. Not tread lightly, but tread differently with some of these conversations.
I agree. All right, one real quick thing too. Kansas City wins again. I think, like I said yesterday, I assume they'll win. I wouldn't have been surprised because Kansas City's been in a lot of close games. I wouldn't have been surprised if the Saints could score. I just don't trust them, and I think that's where I am with them. Like they have a good enough team to be competitive playoff team, but they just don't win a lot of games like this. They're not to be trusted in that way. And, I think this is what's exciting about, where Washington is going. We're going to find out where they stand in games like this starting on Sunday. It's not going to be a referendum if they lose, but it is going to be the first sign of this is what it looks like when they like this, where it's a heightened spot against a really good team on their home field. And the Saints seem to fail in these situations all the time. And they posted 13 points last night. That just ain't going to cut it. Their bread and butter is going to be their offense, especially their speed on the outside. And they can't score more than 13 points. This is why they're not to be trusted. And this is why probably in the end, they're definitively not going to win their division, because I think Atlanta, who already beat them, albeit with defensive scores, but beat them, and Tampa Bay, who's kind of been tried and true in this, one of those two is going to win that division, which means the Saints are going to be struggling to get a wild card.
You also had Carr leave the game with an oblique injury yesterday too, which if he's, I don't really know, actually. He's one of those quarterbacks, if they went to their backup, who I don't even know who they have as their backup because I turned the game off in the fourth quarter. I don't even know if the offense would run any differently, but I just don't trust him. He had a ridiculous interception to start that game off too, where he just chucked it up, but then didn't put it out of bounds. He does really dumb decisions. And it's like, I can't understand why you've been in the league for a decade at this point and you're making those types of calls. I just don't believe in them. I'm with you. It's going to be the Bucs or the Falcons to win that. How about this, though? I have a take for you off Kansas City. The Commanders have a better offense than the Chiefs, but the Chiefs have a better defense than the Commanders. And I think that's pretty much why the Chiefs have
I'd say that for now. But, the problem is, I don't want to get into a discussion about whether Jayden's on Mahomes' level, because he's not.
No, he's not.
Nobody is.
I agree with you on that. But
Nobody is.
The offense as a whole right now, Washington has a better
Until
offense.
he gets to the playoffs, wins playoff games, wins a Super Bowl, nobody is on that guy's level.
No, I'm not talking about that, but I'm saying right now in the moment as a unit, Washington has a better offense than Kansas City, but Kansas City's defense is what's made them 5-0 so far.
I'll do this later in the week because I don't have enough time today, but I do believe there's a pretty good comp for Jayden of like early career, like great, that I'll share with you later in the week. And it's not Mahomes. I think they're very different players. All right. If you are listening on the radio or listening to the podcast, what you'll hear next is a segment from the Booth Review podcast that I do with the Commanders with London off of the game against the Browns on YouTube. You will not see that. Yes, the show's back up on YouTube if you haven't seen it. It is back up on the Empire Media channel, and we'll post this, but you won't see the London Fletcher one because that kind of belongs to the Commanders. So you have to listen to the podcast to hear that segment. Up next for you all, you'll hear something else. Very much the show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. I have an interesting question for you. What's better for our guy, Paul? A good Alabama or a bad Alabama? And I will play you a clip, not the whole thing.
I was going to say.
I can't play the whole thing because it's the best 6-minute sports radio call I've heard in a long time. And I think the magic of our guy, Paul, is that he has a caller set base that makes his show. You can't tune away from it. If you're an SEC football fan, you can't tune away from it because he has his own, for lack of a better way of putting it, like Howard Stern Whack Pack that calls in to his show from all these parts unknown in the South. And then when things like what happened on Saturday to Alabama happen, it's just gold. And he doesn't have to do anything but just sit there and let these people call in and freak out. So let me ask this before I play this clip. Is this good for Paul? Is it better that Bama's a juggernaut like under Saban, or that they lose to teams like Vanderbilt and allow for the people to call in and go, what the hell is that?
Well, the answer to your question is actually yes, because Bama is still good. They had one bad loss. Would you be shocked if they're in the playoff at the end of the year? No.
Well, they beat Georgia, and they're not out of the top 10 yet. So they're going to have to lose again, but they're playing Texas, I believe. So that will probably be it for them.
Sure. But I'm saying like every team now has one loss, not every team, but you know what I mean? There's been losses here where people still make the playoffs. So I think the answer is yes. Having them lose to a team like Vanderbilt, who is in the SEC, does provide a good week's worth of entertainment. It doesn't mean they're not going to be there at the end, is what I'm getting at.
I'm not going to play all of this. About 30 seconds of it is worth it. But here's Finebaum yesterday from one of his very famous callers on losing to Vanderbilt.
I never thought I would utter these words. Vandy is my daddy. Can you believe that? Vandy is my daddy. Do you hear that, Coach DeBoer? That don't piss you off, dude. It pisses me off. It pisses me off, Coach DeBoer. Let me say this to all Alabama fans, because I've caught some flight today, and I can take it. That's why they call me the legend. I can take it. I don't mind. Everybody say what they want. It don't matter. I can take it. You can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. I love the kitchen. So let's get that right. And get this right. I'll ride and die with the Crimson Tide. I don't care to go back and get Mike Shula the coach. I'm going to put Alabama every friggin' game. But that don't mean I can't be pissed at what I seen Saturday on the field. Alabama don't lose to Vandy. We don't lose to Vandy. That is friggin' pathetic, Coach DeBoer. 40 years, dude. 40 years.
I didn't even have time to get to where my favorite one, where he goes, "Hey, Coach DeBoer, strike one." It's I'm jealous of it, sorta, because I don't think I want to live in that world all the time. But we don't take calls because we don't get callers like that.
Yeah, right. Correct.
Like, we don't get the, I think for good reason, like, it's nuts. But I gotta tell you, I don't know. Is this better for Paul that Bama might do things like this all the time? Because from just the old content department, it's amazing. Like, ask Stephen A. Smith. He is in the best place ever with the Cowboys. They're not bad enough where making fun of them is like gratuitous. And they're not good enough to win, which means he gets to go after them when they don't and turn it into content. Alabama going from beating Georgia to losing to Vanderbilt is an incredible place for Paul to be in, because they're not bad enough that they're besmirching the legacy of Nick Saban, but they're clearly not good enough or consistent enough to be a national champion. And that is the perfect space to be in when you have crazies that call it every week about their teams.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still worth reiterating. It's one loss after how much great play, right? Like,
it's
just
a bad one, and it's his first year, and they just beat Georgia. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Did you hear what Kirby said when he was asked about it? Like, he was asked about it after the game.
No.
He went full straight face, and he kind of took a shot at Saban. He was like, you know, nothing shocks me in the SEC. I respect that program over there. I respect what they do, because if you remember, Saban was like, oh yeah, like he didn't say he didn't respect them, but he was just like, he basically made a like, they're unserious about football down there.
We don't lose here.
Yeah. And like, I guess he made a comment about like, oh, it's not loud there or something like that they were playing on the Jumbotron after the game or something like that. So to your point, they're not the Cowboys because they've literally won championships. They're a dynasty in the hardest conference in America. Like,
but they're in this sweet spot now of they still recruit crazy players. They still have a really good team. They're top 10. They just beat Georgia, but they're losing to Vanderbilt. And
they have to lose one more.
Unusual.
They have to lose one more for it to really hit a next level, I think. It's one loss. It's one loss.
All right. Be back at it tomorrow. Bram wants to show ESPN 630 Sports Capital.